Can we talk now about radicalisation?
Yeah, but I think most of the problems that we have among the Muslim community, actually they're not theological, they are economic. I think the economy is the heart of the problem. Yeah. The very fact that 46% of Muslims live in some of the poorest and deprived councils in this country, this is the heart of the problem. The fact that over 24% of Muslims never worked or had the chance to work, despite the fact that the general national figure is only 4%. This is the heart of the problem. Yeah. And you really cannot primarily focus on the theological issues or only cultural issues when you kind of ignore the wider context. Exactly. When basically there is a huge sense of marginalisation.
Does that leave that marginalisation, that sense of isolation,
no, but
alienation?
It's not about the
extremism? Yes, I understand. Does that lead? I want to talk about that.
Yeah, there are enough evidence to suggest that kind of economic deprivation. Basically marginalisation.
But that's not true.
Of course, you can't completely ignore
it. Okay, you can't completely ignore it.
But that's not true. That's not true of Muslims that are born and bred in the West. They are educated. Stats show that the majority
but I just they are educated. 46% of Muslims in this country live in some of the poorest councils in the country.
Let Adam respond.
Of course, there are factors. There are factors such as the power vacuum that has been created, the tension between Shia and Sunni, the invasion of Iraq, the pulling out of troops of Iraq. These are factors, of course, but to the exception of ideology is just pretending. When an ISIS person, a member of ISIS, executes someone who he deems to be an apostate and shouts Allahu Akbar, why should we doubt that it's
I must say that Dr. Afshin Shah mentioned a very valid point about actually we must look at the factors that lead to a person wanting to commit acts of political violence. Yeah. So, you've got economic issues, you've got social issues, you've got political issues. But I think this is where I take real contentions with people like Nadim is that they want to focus on saying that it's a religious phenomena, because actually if you look at academic studies, I'll cite some, Professor David Bennett from the Institute of Bath. Hang on, let me finish my point, please.
Let's be clear about
because it's important to include academia into this.
Adam, you'll respond to this in a minute.
Not yet. It won't affect your funding from the government, I promise. The thing is, Dr. Rizwan Sabir
We've been funded by the government in 4 years.
So you've got Dr. Rizwan Sabir from Liverpool John Moores University, you've got Aaron Kunani from America, you've got writers like Nathan Lean.
And they say what?
And what they say is this, that it's to say it is a religious phenomena is actually empirically incorrect. You cannot, there is actually no sound study that points to that. And the only people that push this sort of idea are those that sit with the government at the table in this country who say, yeah, you know what, it's nothing to do with you bombing people or supporting, dictators in the Middle East. It's all to do with the understanding of religion.
Even, it's more complex than that.
This is a caricature of my position and the Quilliam's position. We understand there are many, many factors.
And the only people that push this sort of idea are those that sit with the government at the table in this country who say, yeah, you know what, it's nothing to do with you bombing people or supporting, dictators in the Middle East. It's all to do with the understanding of religion.
I said this before, that to deny that ideology plays a part is just ridiculous.
Who said if you let me finish, the ideology is formed.
Let him finish. Language.
What you have to understand the phenomenon of ISIS. It's not about just fighting against foreign fighters, ridding of them of occupation of their land. It's more than that. It's that and a hell of a lot more. It's about living in this utopian Islamic state. And their gravitas comes from operating in an environment of Islamism and Wahhabism. They are touching upon these ideas to recruit young people.
IS is a product of a political reality, not an ancient religion, and it's IS is a product of a political reality, not an ancient religion, and it's quite clear that when you look at the profile of many of the young men who head out there, they are what one report refers to as religious novices. If you look at the 2 books that were ordered by the 2 Brahmins recently who were convicted, they were Islam for Dummies and the Quran for Dummies. Quite clearly, these young men are not religiously literate.
are some facts that Bill seems to love. When you hear them, it's going to blow your mind a bit because the way you're told stories doesn't incorporate this information. Did you know that only 2% of all terrorist attacks were committed by Islamic groups or individuals? Like, I can't get my head around that because I can't think what the other 98% are because I never hear those stories about Buddhist or Christian attacks.
In my opinion, it's injustice, humiliation, oppression that are the most common causes of terrorism.
So terrorism's a real thing, and if you want to deal with it, there's a couple of ways of doing it. One way is to stop your own terrorism.